Did anyone bring snacks? Jamon Holmgren, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Simon. Really excited to be here.
Nice. Welcome, everyone. Thanks for joining in the comments already. A lot of talks about snacks, I see. Before we get started, I just thought I'll give you a couple of minutes to introduce yourself, who you are, what you do, and whatever you want to say.
Perfect. This will be a big surprise to all of the people who are watching who are from my company, I'm sure. You know, they don't know much about me. But no, I'm CTO, co-founder of Infinite Red, which is a React and React Native development agency, design and development agency. We're mostly based all over the US. We're kind of a remote company. I live near Portland, Oregon, up in Washington State with my wife and 4 kids on 3 acres. I recently bought a tractor. And so that's something kind of fun. I've been playing around with it in my woods and stuff, cleaning things up. So, but I've been a software engineer for quite a while, probably 15 years now, professionally, somewhere around there. And I've been coding since I was 12. Lived in the Pacific Northwest, USA, all my life.
Excellent. That's really good. Good intro. Just to address that question, we have grand plans to stick to 1 hour in this stream. Yeah. I'm pretty sure Jamon is a busy man and needs to go back to other things. So
my tractor.
Yeah. The tractor, exactly, the acres of grass and the swimming pool deck and all the things that I've seen on your beautiful website. So the reason I brought you here, and I thought that was a good idea. Excuse me, I just opened the wrong window. The reason I thought would be an interesting discussion is this. About exactly a month ago, someone named Jess Telford, hi Jess, if you're watching, brought this tweet to my attention because a couple of days ago I had said, you can see it just under, who would like to join me on a stream, and he said, hey, you should ping that guy. He just said I should learn Tailwind UI, Tailwind CSS, whatever. And further down this discussion, someone said, yep, it's amazing, you should try it. To what you replied, would redesigning my personal website be a good idea? So me being interested, I clicked on that link like I'm doing now. And I saw your website, which by the way is really interesting. It tells a lot about your family life and stuff, which I like to see in the developer community, like people sharing their own self. And I thought, that's pretty interesting. It's like a fairly simple site, and it has some interesting thing we could talk about. Like there's obviously a flex or some sort of navigation here that's common to each page. The homepage is that nice grid, in 3-column grid. And then every page essentially has a bunch of content. I have no idea if it comes from a CMS or if it's just markdown files or whatever. It doesn't really matter. But every subsequent page basically is the same as the homepage without the home grid. So I thought the homepage itself would be...
Real quick,
sure.
Todd says that my audio is out of sync. Is that still the case, Todd? I'm I'm not sure if we're. I don't know how to really tell from my end.
Is that a big lag, or is it going to
I'm not sure.
bother you? You seem fine on my end, but like it works on my machine thing.
It works on my machine too. Yeah, I don't know what he's talking about. Yeah, that's fine. Also, I noticed a lot of people talking about the tractor. Of course, there's the drinking game. Every time I mention the tractor,
oh yeah,
you gotta drink.
It's gonna be
all right. Go ahead, Simon.
So just to address that comment, when we as streamers watch the live stream, it's delayed about 15 seconds because that's just how live streams work. So if we want to watch the audio syncing, we have to watch a delayed stream, and it's pretty hard. So we'll just, Tailwind Labs say it's fine, and we should trust Tailwind Labs. There we go. All right. So I thought this is an interesting, simple enough, but still some concept to go through to do a light introduction to Tailwind. And if I go at the bottom here, you can see that the website is built with Next.js, and you very nicely shared the source code on GitHub, which I will eventually steal a little bit for the content of this text here. But I thought, because it's in Next, my first initial impression was like, I'm gonna fork that repo and try to bring Tailwind in. But I thought it's probably more interesting to start fresh. And instead of trying to replicate pixel by pixel, color by color, exactly the same, just show you more like concept of how I would build something like this with Tailwind. Right. And we still are going to make it look fairly similar, but we might not try to, unless you have a very intentional pixel by pixel design and you want it to replicate the same. I think we're just gonna go around.
My background is back-end development. Right. It's been a struggle to get it to look as bad as it is right now. So if you have any suggestions for making it look better, I'm all about that. I think that's one of the big things that when I put that tweet out there about Tailwind CSS, it was sort of a little bit of like I'm really bad at this stuff. Sometimes I have these ideas, I want to build something, but I always get hung up on the front end and like all the I don't understand modern CSS very well. Like when I was doing front end, it was like, well, originally it was like table layouts, and then eventually it was like floats and clears and things like that. Yeah, totally. So I know kind of the basics of Flexbox. I've learned a little bit about CSS Grid, but I've heard a lot of people talk about Tailwind, and that was kind of the impetus behind that.
Nice. So Tailwind is so low level that you kind of need to understand CSS to use it, but as Adam reminded me the other day, you can also learn Tailwind by using it, because it takes away a lot of the hard stuff with CSS, like the cascade and complexity growing. And you can focus on the actual concept, layout, grid, flexbox, and stuff like this. So what I thought we would do is no cheating, start from scratch. So if I check this folder, there's literally nothing. And so we're going to start a new next project. And with npx, we can use this create next app.
Okay.
And we'll call it Jamon Tailwind.
Nice.
And live demo gods, I pray to you, but live demos always go funny in some way. So let's hope there's not like a dependency change of last minute that just breaks everything. If it does, we'll figure out a way to go through.
Yeah. I did a live coding. Well, there's a whole conference in Amsterdam called React Live Amsterdam. And I did a whole live demo of our React Native boilerplate, which is Ignite, up on stage in front of 800 developers. So that was fun. Actually went pretty well. I think, overall, I prefer live demos over having to do something and make it perfect. I sort of like the rawness of being live.
Demos are nice. Prototypes and demos. So I've installed a Next successfully, and technically at this point, we should be able to run a Next.js site on localhost port 3000.
I Hate Tomatoes says, I'm sure you practiced the whole thing yesterday.
I might have an overview of escape hatches if things go straight. So this is our next site. If you don't know Next.js, it's a platform to build static side and application with React, but it gives the server-side rendering and lots of nice stuff out of the box, routes and all that stuff. We're not really gonna over-index on Next, more on Tailwind, but the idea is just check, okay, we have got a Next, and now what is the step to actually bring Tailwind in that thing? So I'll close my terminal, and we need to install a couple of things. We're gonna install Tailwind CSS, which sounds obvious. And we also gonna install Auto Prefixer, even if we're not really gonna talk about it, but Tailwind uses Auto Prefixer, which is a post CSS plugin. Both of them are post CSS plugins. So I'll use Jan this time.
Yeah.
Tailwind CSS and Auto Prefixer. And don't mind this, I will just force it to be version 9 because of current. What? Oh, it's Jan. It's always been Jan. I started with NPM and then I switched to Jan midway in my brain.
Well, if Yarn knows that, why don't they just kind of say
exactly when they suggest, you're like, could you have done it for me?
Right.
So yeah, post CSS 8 has some issues, and so just using Auto Prefixer 9 here works for us.
Absalom says, why not use a Tailwind template?
Because we're starting from scratch.
We're going to start from scratch, Absalom. Yeah, it might look better than my design. I know you're really trying to get my design to look better than it does. I appreciate that, buddy. But we're gonna see how the sausage is made here.
Yes. So you can see I've got my vanilla Next project, and now Tailwind comes with a CLI few options, which allow us to generate a post CSS config file for us, and more interestingly, config file, which is the whole concept of Tailwind. You define colors and spacing scales, and I'll show you that now. So npx, I'll go Tailwind CSS init, and I will ask for the full version of the config file here, because it's going to show us, it's a bit better to learn. You can see all the variation of colors and stuff, and -p to get the post CSS. And you can see now we have two files here, post CSS config, which is using the two plugins, post CSS plugins that we just installed. And the really interesting stuff now is this config file. So there's different things, like you can, we can talk about this later, but what I want to focus on first is that theme. The concept of theme in Tailwind is a big JavaScript object with, first of all, screens, which is your breakpoints. And these screens are going to be used to generate responsive variants of every single utility classes that Tailwind will generate.
And Simon, can you add your own just kind of random sizes as well if you want?
Absolutely. We will do that through the stream. Cool. I'll show you how to configure this. There's two ways to do it. You can extend the theme, or here we install the entire theme, so we're just going to plop along our values as we want. And this is I've got some places where I can show you that. The biggest object by far in this config is all the colors. And I personally could just scroll and watch these color spreads all day. They're beautiful. And basically for a whole lot of different colors, you got 9 shades going from 100 being the lightest to 900 the darkest.
Yeah.
And again, you can add as many, and you can name them as whatever you want. Lots of colors, spacing scales that are going to be used for margins and paddings, gradients, shadows, box shadows. Like there's a lot of things in there, and it's been finely curated and with lots of design thinking. If you follow Steve Shoger on Twitter, he's been obsessing about colors for like weeks and weeks. And there's a lot of thought going into the selection of all these values. So what do we do now? We have a big JavaScript object. Because you do a lot of React and React Native, I think you could think, oh, I can import these values, these design tokens in my JavaScript file, and you can do that. But Tailwind itself is a post CSS plugin that will take some initial CSS and then run it through this config file and do lots of transformation, and then spit out on the other end a lot of CSS classes, utility classes that you can use in your project. So the next step we need to do is create a CSS file, which is the entry point, I guess. And it's going to be used through the post CSS plugin, Tailwind CSS. So global styles, because we want them to be accessible everywhere, is probably a good place to do that. I'll just get rid of all of this, right? And then
so that's what came with Next.js itself.
That's what was giving the styles for. Well, there's two CSS files. There's one that was the thing I just deleted is like a super minimal reset.
Right. That's
like
a global,
very bare bones reset. And then there's another one that styles the homepage, which we'll not use. And I could delete it. I'll leave it for now. So, Tailwind gives us custom post CSS directives that start with the ampersand sign and called Tailwind. And I'll just do one thing that I do not know, and maybe Robin and Adam and Brad can tell me why. When I start a new Next project, I have to close the VS Code window once, and then when I reopen it, it just works every single time. Like, because I'll show you there will be now autocomplete for all the things that I'm trying to do. And I forgot to open VS Code. All right.
Perfect.
So now if I go in my CSS file, I should, when I go add Tailwind, maybe. Yeah, there you go. So now it's going to propose me. So this Tailwind has different layer base. To speed up a bit, is literally normalize CSS reset, making all the margin 0, font size, etc. to have cross-browser, like a starting point, which is reset.
Okay.
There's another layer called, there we go, and there goes the live coding. There's one called components, which it allows you to abstract components away, and we'll talk about it in a little bit. This is the one I use the least personally, and the main one is Tailwind utilities. And this is where all our utilities are going to go. And you can see the PS Code is not quite happy, so I'll just change quickly the language to post CSS, because it's a post CSS file, and then it's happy.
And you just have an extension for that then?
Yes, so I just installed like a language support for post CSS.
Okay, nice. Okay.
So this is our entry point, and then it's going to run through Tailwind CSS, post CSS plugin, and on the other end spit out 1 million of utility classes that we can call later, as I'll show you. And in our next project, if I look in the pages _app, which is like the application shell that loads on every single page, it's already loading this. So technically, we should have, it should be working at this point. We should have Tailwind CSS working. So what I'll do is I'll do the hello world of Tailwind. I'll just get rid of all of this for now. And we'll do like home page. I've seen in your code base that you use arrow functions, so I'll use that too.
I kind of go back and forth, to be honest. I haven't really settled on something that I'm super like militant about. So I like arrow functions. They work fine.
I get export.
Oh yeah.
I used to do lots of React, and I've been living in HTML and CSS a lot since the last few months. So there you go. So nice. The first thing you might notice is it's an H1 and it's really small and there's no spacing. So it tells me already that Tailwind works. But the way you think about Tailwind is you really think for each element what visual style one by one you want to apply. So let's say we want to make this much bigger, like extra large size, and maybe add some color behind it. So on the H1 itself, I'll go class name equals, let's go text.
Oh, no, autocompletes, that's cool.
Ooh, look at this, and you can see all the nice colors. So
nice.
I want the size 4XL. Even if you don't know what it is, you can hover it. It's 2.25 rem. What else do we want to do? Let's just see that, first of all, if it works. Yep, it works.
Okay, yep.
And then we'll add some niceness here. Class name equals, let's go some padding vertical. So CPY for the Y axis. And again, I've got many choices. I'll go 10 and BG. Let's go teal 300. That looks nice.
Okay.
And maybe also we'll make, what is that? No, complete. Oh, yes, it is. Ooh, look at this.
Nice.
So I just declaratively said, hey, make the background teal and some padding vertical and the font size here.
Yep. Okay.
And if we go back for a split second to our config file here, and we look at our colors, so I picked teal 300 here.
Yeah.
I did notice, if we look at your website, that you have this specific red color. And I have no idea if it's this. It is the Infinite Red brand color, but you are the founder of Infinite Red, so I thought that would be funny to add an infinite key.
Red.
And I've noticed that it's called CSS color called Fire Brick, which I did not know about, but I like.
By the way, Horatio says, would love to see how you use the Pros Typography plugin.
This is coming exactly. Glad you asked, because we are going to use it for this section here.
Oh, nice.
So stay tuned.
Yes.
So by just adding one key, infinite, in our red colors, look at this. If I go in my, I type infinite here. If I can type, you can see it created colors for background, gradients, border,
so
placeholder, text.
Adds all the different like permutations of that. That's very cool.
And then there's the responsive versions of them. So by just adding a key to your scale, it's going to generate a whole lot of classes that is manually would take a lot. So let's change this to be now red dash infinite. And you can see the colors there. So the naming, here we go. And maybe we might do the text white here. There you go. So the way the naming mechanism works is we went in the colors .red.infinite, and then it's kind of translates that to -red-infinite in the class name.
Gotcha.
So any name, we could have called it Jamon or whatever you want to generate your class name. So you can create your own custom design system in a way.
Wow, that's cool.
And I can probably remove this infinite, which is nothing. So I promise that we're going to build this, and this does not look at all like this. So
a little different.
Yeah, a little different. First thing I want to point out is this lives in every single page. So instead of doing this in the home page, I thought we would do it in the application shell. So every page has that max width container. And the first thing that we can notice is you have every page, and I checked before, it's 950 pixels wide, which the whole website lives in that container. So if we go back to this project, I will now go to my _app, which is the shell. And instead of just returning this component, we'll wrap it in the div. That could be a fragment probably, but that'll work. And for now, we can make a header class. Oh, and on the wrapping div, we'll add a class name, which is, we want a max width container. Max width, and again, we can check the different values. So now they're in rems. 950. 950, interestingly, if I, or you can't see it on my screen, but if I did the conversion, which I did, it equals to almost 60 rem. It's like 59.75 or something. So we'll go with the bigger one for now. 5 XL.
Sounds great. Yeah.
And now it's going to align it to the left, because we just said, hey, stop at, and if you want to center it, you can, and you've done it on your own side, you can set margin left auto and margin right auto. And Tailwind has a nice MX for the X axis. MX-auto. And you can see it applies these two things. So this is going to give us our max width container.
So at least centering things horizontally like that hasn't changed since 2005 when I started.
Some things don't change.
Some things don't change.
Let's do something quickly. Max width. We're gonna find here, and just for fun or pedantism or whatever, we're gonna go 4.5 XL and make it 60.
Nice.
Just again to show you that you can completely. And now autocomplete should find this class. See how quick
that's cool.
It just picked it up.
I really like that. Yeah, that's fantastic.
So now we just reduced it to make it pretty much the same.
Right. Okay.
This is your logo, I guess. It's
I guess. You didn't have to say that so dismissively.
Sorry.
It's okay. It's
let's
just yeah.
I know Next uses next link, but because we're doing just one page, I'm not gonna dive in the import next link and then have the href and the link tag. I know how to do it, but
yeah.
We'll go Holmgren. Sorry, there you go. So now we've
got it.
Got it. So you can see now it's really small. And let me just get rid of this. We're just gonna go have a p tag here that says home page, because that's gonna be the content. So now let's work on this. We got this logo. We want to make it big, add some spacing. So again, class name, text. What do we go with? 3XL, I guess. Fonts, so you can have.
And tell me again what the 3x one is there. That's the width of it and the height of it. Or
no, so
that's a font size. Okay.
Yeah. So I go a bit quick here because we were like just having quick overview of Tailwind, but the workflow you would be either discovering with the autocomplete or go on the Tailwind docs and look for text size, and it would say text dash. But text is the size, so you have. You can have 3, 4, 5 XL, and text also is used for the colors. So text dash something is all the colors that you want.
So the 3x1, the 1 is the height, right? Like the
no, it's
or sorry, no,
XL,
3 is the size, and then what's the X1 part?
T-shirt size.
Oh,
it's not a XL, 1, it's an L, extra
not
large.
X1. Okay, I am. Now this is making sense. Okay, I'm just here to ask the dumb questions.
That's all right.
And talking about my tractor. Drink.
Font bold. Let's make it bold. So now we should have a kind of works.
3XL. That makes so much more sense than ×1. Okay.
Yeah. Now we'll add some spacing on the top.
Okay.
Let's go padding top 12. Kind of just it
12.
gives us this nice 12.
That's
the 12 is the increment scale of spacing.
Awesome.
So now it kind of actually it looks pretty much right on.
It's pretty close. Nice.
And we see we have this. There's a border bottom which is gray something. I'll go with gray 2 or 300.
Yeah.
And let's just try that. I'm gonna stop clicking on this thing. So that's on the link. We're gonna go text gray, and we can actually figure it out from the little swatches. Probably this one.
Oh, you can just see the
And
you can kind of just.
Oh, that's sorry. No, it's not the text. What we want is border.
Okay.
Border gray. So that's the border color. There you go.
Okay.
And we also need to say that we want only the border B for border bottom to have the color.
And interesting. Okay.
You can have 0, 1 is the default. 0
for the width, 4. Right?
Yep. So
okay.
I'm almost sure that you're not 2 or 4, but you're 3. But we're gonna stop adding like custom values in the config since I'll go with 2 for now.
I had to make it harder on you, didn't I?
You did.
maybe a 4.
All the in between
values. 4?
Yeah, let's go with 4. It's your website. All right.
That actually looks pretty cool. I like it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll just make this inline block. And the reason is so it respects the vertical spacing, right, of the line height.
Okay.
So that might be one as a backend dev. That's the sort of little finesse thing that you're like, why is my thing not? Yeah.
It respects the those settings. Yep, totally makes sense. That's pretty close. Yeah. That's pretty good, and it's just some classes. That's cool.
Yeah. Why is it? Oh, okay.
So there's a question in the stream.
Yes, please.
Oh
my God.
I'm sorry, I don't know how to say your name. Would this video be available after the stream for those who missed the beginning?
Yes, totally. This video, let me be professional for a second. This video,
nice.
The video will be, it's stream live, and the pretty much the second we finish the streaming, YouTube converts it into like an archived video in a playlist. I'll assign it to we have this Tailwind Talk playlist. It's going to be available there forever.
Yeah.
Never
I
going
hate
away.
tomatoes. I hate tomatoes says all questions are good questions, Jamon. So a question for you, I hate tomatoes. Why do you hate tomatoes? All right, we can keep moving.
Yeah, and see what the answer comes up. So we've created this. we got a nice spacing. And then the next step is this navigation. So let's do that. Inside, let's say it's part of the header. We got a logo, and then we have nav here. Nav is a HTML element to define that it's a navigation that's coming up. And I'll do an unordered list here. And for now, let's just do that. Link. So we got a bunch of links, and they're going to be vertical, right?
Okay. Right.
So it seems like it's center aligned or closely.
Yeah.
I would put that in a flex container and then play with it.
Right.
So by just telling the UL class name of flex, now we've said display flex.
Right.
And I also want it to wrap. Otherwise, when we go smaller, it's going to try to shrink it to something ridiculous. So now we got a link without spacing. Maybe on
clink.
And this is now a place because if we're gonna start applying style to the li element, we're going to have some repetition, and that's people get scared with Tailwind. Like, how do we avoid duplication? One way to do that is to make a component, and since we're next and using JSX, we'll very quickly at the top here, I'll go const links equals array. Oh my god, what is the? I always forget.
I always forget the
alt I. Oh yes.
Yes, that's it. Okay.
Multi-cursor.
I knew it back in the Sublime days, but
yeah, I lost it for a while and I looked it up the other day. So now I've got these links and I can use some. Let's see if I can still map over something with JSX. Links dot map, and we want the individual link and index because React wants the key.
That's true.
And we're going to return an li. Are we going to return an li? Yes. And let's put the key before we forget, because I always forget. Key is index.
Right. And you could even use the link name for the key as well. That would be another option.
Oh, yeah. If they're all unique, that's true.
Yeah.
Go this. And here we want the link. Did I nail it on first try? We shall see.
We'll see.
Da-da-da-da.
I Hate Tomatoes says, I
did.
Yep, there they are. Nice.
So
I Hate Tomatoes says, long story short, when I was a kid, I got attacked by a bunch of tomatoes.
There you go. That'll scar you for life.
Right, I guess so. Horatio asks why UL inside nav and not just nav items.
That's a very good question, and I might be wrong, but in my head, every time there's a list of things, I use an ordered list or ordered list or some sort of list, definition list, and then I style it. Now, because it's in a nav, you can probably have anchor tags straight in there. Don't quote me on that. For now, I'll use this, but it's very possible that I don't have to do this, and it might be even worse to do it. So don't take this as the blueprint of how to write semantic HTML.
There's a little bit of just opinion kind of mixed in with that as well. So cool.
Yeah, but okay. So let me add some. I'll go P. Do you know what P stands for? Or you can see. Let's go P-2. P-2 will just add a tiny bit of padding around each link.
Okay.
And now we're gonna get serious. In my nav here. Ooh, class name. I thought I would never do this mistake. We'll go. Let's go some padding. What am I doing? PY dash. Let's go 6. I don't even know if it's good. Yeah.
Okay, so PY would be the y-axis, the top and bottom.
So instead of
we're not talking about Python version 8 here.
Nope. So instead of doing T and PB for padding top and bottom, if you want the same value, you can use PY, which is the shorthand. And now let's move a bit quicker. I'm gonna make it font monospace. I know you use a different font, but it's gonna be close enough.
That's okay.
Text XL. I don't know. I'm just putting stuff. And we probably want. Is it here? I never know. flex 1 to use all
Class
the available
name.
space. Oh,
Did class work? Because you put class instead of class name.
It tells you in the DevTools when you made a mistake, but it actually works in
It
Next.
did work. Okay.
I don't know
cool.
if it works in production, but when you dev, it works. So it looks, but see, the space is not quite the same. It looks to me that if I put a little debugging BG red hand, let's go. Yeah, we can use the infinite red, I guess. No, let's go red 200. You can see that they're actually not using, even if I put flex 1, the link itself. So I guess I could go display block here. And again, I'm probably making silly assumptions. Instead of P2, I'll go M2 to create the margin instead of padding. And if we...
And they probably need to be centered.
Yes.
Like text center.
There you go. See, now you're telling me how Tailwind works already.
Text center. I even anticipated the name.
You did. Wow. That's awesome.
Okay.
So
that's getting there. That's getting there. This is very good
for me. If we get rid of that, let's compare.
Yeah, that's pretty close.
Hey, now it looks red. Maybe just the next size up. Which, I mean, does it matter? Not really. Why does it?
2XL.
No, not 20XL. That would be big. Yeah.
That's pretty darn close.
Okay. So
and as a back-end engineer, that's close enough.
Okay, that's good enough for you. Good enough for me.
All the designers' heads explode right now.
Yeah, probably people cringing if you get the...
Yeah, totally. I'm not going to apologize for it.
Hover state has your beautiful fabric that we rename Infinite Red. So I'll show you something we haven't done yet. Prefix a class with hover.
Okay.
Oh, what's going to happen now? I have, again, all
No way. Really?
Hover, and then anything that you've learned already, like text red infinite. Look at this. There it is.
So you can put pseudo classes like hover in there. That's amazing.
Yes. So just by doing this, now on hover, I was like, I finished the site already. Now I've got your infinite
Very
red.
Cool.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
And this is also how you do media queries. And there's hover, but there's focus, there's group hover. There's a lot of different, you can look in the docs, lots of different pseudo-class selector variants. And Tailwind has that concept of prefixing. Yeah.
Perfect. Just FYI, the chat is saying that if we put justify dash between inside of the UL class, then we'll get better results apparently. So
that is going to center it, and I guess I need to remove my flex 1 here. Maybe. Okay. There you go.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that is nicer.
Yeah, justify between will take all the elements and apply space, the remaining space between each.
Yeah, thanks.
And the space around, like if we're gonna be picky, you've got space on the side, so we would whatever.
That was probably because I couldn't figure it out, to be honest. So
okay, so if
thanks to Miguel and Wilson and Hawati. Sorry, I butchered that name. But thanks in the chat.
Yes, thank you very much. This is awesome. So we've got a navigation. We're happy with that. It's going to be hard to see, but technically you have, because I DevTool inspected, you have like a transition on hover. It takes 200 milliseconds to become red.
Yeah.
So let's not throw away these nice things just because we're using Tailwind. So I'll add here a transition class.
This is all just coming directly from Tailwind. Like it's just coming. Wow. Okay.
All of these is what Tailwind generated. So we want transition, which is going to select only like the performance things that you can animate or transition to, and we'll pick a duration of let's make it obnoxious 1 second long, just so we can. I don't even know if you'll see that because it's. But now it takes about a second to become red.
Okay. Now, is it everything to the right of the transition that?
No, that's it's just I've got some sort of slightly inconsistent convention. What I like to do is one thing that we do consistently at Tailwind Labs is if we have media queries, we really put them in order of growth. So all the default classes and then small, breakpoint, medium, large, extra large. Now I could have the transition word after the duration, and it would work as well. It just composes them together.
I see. Okay. Yeah. So it's just only applying to the things that change, like on hover.
Because that's one thing that tricks backend developers a lot is CSS. It doesn't matter the order you put them in your class name. It's the order in the CSS style sheet that will define which one wins. That's the cascade part.
Okay.
So if you go text blue, text green, Anyway, let's keep going. Where was I? Yeah, I will remove this 2000, 1000 and go 200. So looking pretty nice. And that's the next interesting part is this grid. So Tailwind also comes with nice utilities for grid.
Okay.
And I guess now we can move into so you would probably have a component for navigation and abstract the components, but let's leave it for our app scaffold here. And now we can start doing the content of the homepage. I guess the grid is only on the homepage. So I'll have a little div.
By the way, Justin Lane in chat says, will the repo you're working on be available after the stream? And then he says, I need to pull request in a tractor emoji.
I mean, Jamon's website is 100% open source, and I'm happy to put this. I don't know what the state of the live stream code repo will be at the end, but there's no problem for putting it on the repo and sharing it. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Just don't take it as a blueprint of how to do things, and we'll be good. So I'll just have a wrapping div just in case I'll add more stuff. It could be a React fragment, but that doesn't really matter here. And then I have again I'll go UL. No, let's just go div. I don't want to go back in the discussion of. So grid is going to set display grid.
Okay.
And as a test here, I'll just go hello, and I'll put 3 p tags. And now they're still going to be stacked because we define the grid, but we need to tell, hey, I would like to have 3 columns in this grid. I would like to have columns 3.
Oh, wow. Really?
Yep.
That's amazing.
And now our hellos should be taking...
Oh, very cool.
So I'm going to replace these with...
images, or are you going to try to wrap them?
Yes, images. I was trying to look for my multi-cursor thing. Image tags.
Yep.
For now, place kitten will do. I think it's like this. And you would have an alt tag. What? Look at this.
There they are. Nice.
So the first thing to note is they are flush, like touching each other. And in your thing, you have a nice little gap.
Yeah.
Right? So you can add a grid. If you know CSS grid, it comes with a gap property. And Tailwind maps it as well. So we can have gap 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, whatever. Let's go with gap 4. See what happens. Ooh.
Nice.
6. That's nice.
Very cool.
Now it's worth mentioning if I go really narrow here, the gap might become a bit apparently too big. And that's not really
interesting.
Nice.
Yeah.
But we could say, hey, we actually want a gap of 1.
Okay.
And then on the medium or like small breakpoint, let's go medium breakpoint, gap of 3, and then LG, gap of 4. And you can see here it's applying this media query. So it nests the just by prefixing it with LG, it's reusing my gap 6 declaration, but wrapping it in the media query.
Very cool.
Now if I go small, there's a small gap. You can see it's quite tiny.
Very cool.
And then it'll jump right there. Can you see the jump?
Nice.
Bing.
Yep. Very cool.
And there. And what I suggest we can do here is to make it a little bit nicer. I'll quickly add a couple of things. I will add rounded, let's try MD. Just add some little rounded corners to our images. Can you see?
Yep.
If you cannot see,
cool.
because the stream is too small, we can make something a little bit more drastic. Where am I? Here. So now I've got full rounded corners. But we'll go back to, and again, you have all these options proposed to you, medium, large, extra large. Let's go with that. And we'll add also a shadow. Shadow on images is nice. You can go all crazy, super big shadows like this, but it doesn't really work. I might just even leave the default shadow, which is quite maybe
subtle.
Is MD a thing? Yes, it is a thing. Well, you can't really see it here because of the dark bottom of the image. I think if I hard refresh, I'll get a different image and we might have more luck. No, it's cached now.
Same one, yeah.
Look at this. I'll go 401 to get another one. Oh, you're going to give me the same kitten every time. All right, anyway. What I thought we could do is be sneaky and copy image address, and I will actually pull them straight up from your site. That'll work. Will it work? No, yeah, it's going to work. Copy image address. There you go. And one more.
Perfect.
Let's see what happens now. Hey.
Nice.
Look at this. It's not looking too bad, like for live stream in fairly slow movements, and I mean it's not exactly pixel perfect, but you
pretty
get
close,
the idea that you can pretty much build anything you think of. And I think now is gonna be the interesting part, where I want to take care of all this copy and show you. I think Horatio mentioned at the start about this typography plugin. So because you kindly open sourced your website, I will go in the pages here and I will steal everything after the image. So there's the image grid here.
Okay.
And I'll grab all of that. And you used a styled, Next.js comes with this styled JSX, which kind of scopes CSS for you. It's really nice, actually. But I will pick up to this closing paragraph. And in there, I'll go just copy so I don't get lost. I'll put a div to wrap it, and I'll paste all of this. Now, because I think you have next links, it'll probably explode our page for a split second, but as long as we know that's the case. Yes, there you go.
Yeah, link not defined. Right.
So I don't want to go find them, so I'll just the path of least resistance, right? Next dash link. So now it's happy. Are you happy? Yes, you're happy.
There it is.
So that's one thing that's pretty radical with Tailwind, is it resets all the heading sizes and text and UL and everything to nothing. The whole idea behind this is you can now take control of it and make it exactly how you want. But there's situations, let's say it comes from a contentful CMS, or like what if the markup and the class names come from an API and you cannot apply extra classes on top? Like how? Let me maybe just show you how I would do it. I would just let's add a big. Actually, let's go vertical because we also want it on the bottom. So add a big vertical margin, so I get some space. Okay. And I would take the H2, and we don't need this opening class, which is yours. I don't think there's any other classes that you use. It's just, everything else is like
I avoided it.
That's good. That's good for our example. So I would go MB4, text 3, Excel, font, semi-bold. Is that a thing? Yeah.
Nice.
So you would go like this, and now we've got this nice heading.
Very cool. And that's awesome.
You would abstract maybe a H2 to be that style or what have you.
Yep.
But let's assume that we can't do this, And this is where the whole concept of plugins come. Tailwind lets you write plugins that adds functionality. You can create utility classes, or you can create components. Remember in my CSS file, I skimmed over this layer, which is called components. So we'll add a typography plugin that actually injects inside this components layer. And the way you add plugins is at the bottom of the config file here, we have a plugins array. So I'll need to stop my server for a split second and go yarn add at Tailwind CSS / typography.
You missed the L there in Tailwind.
I literally type Tailwind 100 times a day, and I have about 6 different go-to typos for it. Is that good now? Tailwind CSS
I think so.
typography. So it's gonna just add this plugin, and I'll restart my server, and now we can require it in here. So I could import it at the top, but I can also just.
And it'll automatically.
And
I see.
This.
Okay. Yep. Just right there.
So instead of const
nice.
Tailwind const typography equals require, and then I'll just require instead there.
Yeah.
So now it's going to augment my Tailwind config by injecting things in different places. And you can look at the plugins API. It's really interesting, very powerful. So what Tailwind typography plugin does, it does one thing essentially, as it gives you a class that Horatio mentioned called Prose, and wherever you apply the class Prose, it's going to treat all the raw HTML elements below and style them with a lot of design thinking. Again, that's one thing that it's like having paid designers of high quality to curate a typography, and then you have sensible defaults, and then you can customize everything. But I think
my designers are watching right now, so they're just they're seeing that they can just automate their jobs away now.
Yeah. So let's just add the Prose class. By itself, it's not going to look perfect, but you will see that immediately. We have heading styles, codes, snippets like horizontal lines, heading, bullet lists, all of this, and it looks really nice. There's a reason why it's not using the whole width. There's a whole thinking behind the most readable line length.
Right.
So,
and I'm severely violating that with my website, which is true.
Yeah, you had fully, so what you could make it go full width by telling it to have mean width full. But what we can do is also in situation like this is go MX auto again, center the thing, and I think that looks quite nice. Yeah. You can see that like this medium type where you have that's a good tip for you. Like if you want readable text, don't feel like you need to use the whole space. Just making the width narrower is already a huge improvement, and it's nice to have white space. You don't need to occupy the whole. And then
MX would be the margin on the left and the right.
Yep.
And you set it to auto, and boom, it's in the middle. That is pretty cool. I like it.
Yeah, perfectly.
And you know what? I was actually quite aware that my text was too wide, but I didn't really think through like, how do I fix this? Well, you just did. Boom, just like that.
And let's say you want like a really nice blogging, like medium type font, which is a bit bigger. You can go. Prose has some variations, so you have small, large. Let's check large and see how it looks like, and it's gonna bump up everything, and it's really nice.
Okay.
And then you can say only from the large breakpoint go large, right? So now,
I see. Okay.
You start to see how you can do responsive stuff. Effort. So now it's gonna be the.
Ooh.
So now what's the next problem? There's a problem here. Can you tell me?
Yeah, the margin on the sides is just slammed up against the side there.
So again, I will go in my app, and here we got padding vertical. You can see for the top and bottom.
And would you only apply this to like the medium breakpoint?
That's a good idea. So I would go PX. So padding on the x-axis. 4.
Okay.
And then maybe you don't need it when you're on a large. Well, you might need it, but let's say you could go PX 0, so it's gonna reset.
Right.
I would not do this because you could still have the. I
suppose once you get to a certain size, it's going to.
You're good because we have a max width container at 60 rems, which is 950, and then so it'll work. There you go. So now we got a nice padding 4.
Very nice.
So you're never gonna hit the edges of the browser. and then essentially it goes away when you saw it jump here. That's when it goes away.
Right.
And so now we have like our very high fidelity width. It should be very similar to yours because we use 60 RAM. Yours is 59.7 something.
Okay.
And so in I have no concept of time, which is terrible. 58 minutes. In 58 minutes, including the countdown. So in 53 minutes, we took this website.
Yeah.
And from scratch, pretty much with a brand new next project, we built something that's
super
quite
cool.
Similar. And now you can see this shadow on this. I don't know how well you can see it, but we added this nice subtle shadow, and it's quite nice.
Mm-hmm.
And we've barely scratched the surface. We haven't talked about transitions.
Really quick.
Yep.
Sorry, Simon. We have someone kind of spamming in chat there. Is that something you can deal with?
I can see that. This is in my homework for next stream to know how to... No, I don't want to bring him on screen. That would be the opposite of what I want to do. I think in YouTube, if I go on the YouTube page, I can...
okay.
Maybe if Adam's still there, he can go and just shut that person down. But definitely something I should look into.
Okay. Yeah.
We've just scratched the surface. Yeah. We haven't touched in transition, animation, dark mode. There's so many things that you can do with Tailwind. Right. But maybe just before wrapping up, I want to show you one more thing.
Yeah, sure. And I do have a couple of questions too that we can hit as well.
If I close this and I go yarn build, we will get yelled at, rightly so, by Tailwind.
Okay.
It's gonna say, "Hey, you are not purging your styles," which means you are using all the default generated utility classes. And
okay, so how do you do that?
So now it's just gonna generate this next build, and we'll just have a quick look at the output file. It's gonna be minified, but you will, because I have this nice extension that shows the colors every time there's a color. If I go in, I think static CSS. So as I scroll down, you will see all the teal and green and purple and where are they?
We're not even using it, but it's still there. Okay.
See all of this we generated, and there's responsive variation for all of this, right?
Okay.
And what the DevTools told us is that we need to, it didn't tell us how to do it, but basically the config file has a purge key right at the top.
Yeah.
And it uses Purge CSS under the hood. If you don't know, it's yet another post CSS plugin that looks very naively on purpose for text strings. It doesn't try to parse like programming. It just looks, can I find text red 200 because the CSS declares it? And if yes, then I keep it. Otherwise, I'm going to purge it. And it removes anything that hasn't been found, but you need to tell it where. So here, we're going to go pages because we worked in pages. And that's up to your project, right? But anything in a JS file, and if we use TypeScript, we would like add the extension.
Yes, yeah.
So now,
so that's just a glob to bring in all of the JavaScript files as well as any folders in there.
Exactly.
Perfect.
And worth noting, it's only going to do this if the node env is set to production, which in Next it is when you build. You can tell no, I want you to purge every single time I save a file, or but it's gonna take a few seconds, and if you add more utilities, the dev workflow is going to slow down. So you can decide when to enable it, but without doing anything, it's going to look for the node env production flag. So let's rebuild our thing, and Tailwind is probably still going to tell us other things, because I can see a future flag which is not turned on, but let's see the conservative purge mode will be removed. So as Tailwind approaches 2.0, there's a really sensible way to kind of progressively migrate towards it. So when 2.0 comes, you basically it's working without massive changes. So you can see here, I get these future keys, which is a hint, but they're still commented out by when we generate the default config.
Right.
But these purge layers by default, what it does, I don't want to go too deep in the details, but it's going to purge all 3 layers of Tailwind.
Okay.
Where before it was just utilities, and things change a bit. So now we kind of opted in for the 2.0 version of how things work.
Yeah. So I like this because unlike something like Webpack or something like that, this is very straightforward, very kind of a shallow layer of config. You're not having to go really, really deep. It's just, hitting a couple things.
Yeah. So I wish I kept the page. It had 200 or 300 kilobytes, even compressed zip.
Oh, okay, right.
Not zipped, but minified. And now it's at 8, and we're gonna rebuild the 3rd time with the proper future flag turned on, and it should go even lower now.
So I'll ask my question while it's going.
Sure.
Actually, that was really fast.
So look at
it's
this,
down to
2.93. And if we look, we have a 3rd in VS Code now. We have a 3rd CSS file. And hang on, is that the first one? It's one of these. Yeah, okay. So you can see the first one. You can see how small this little scroll bar was with everything. And now in our new file, we should only see some grays and somewhere infinite red because we used it for hover state. There you go. So look at this. It just kept the hover text red infinite because we used it for hover state. It didn't even keep all the red text colors and background. It just kept the one that we used. And I learned now that it's B22222, Firebrick. So we end up with exactly the CSS that we've used. You can see the prose classes and the fancy transitions and stuff. So it's only going to keep whatever we use to build this site. And now you have you had all the power of creativity at dev time, and then at build time you have like the minimal subset of CSS, super performant and compressible. Right. So that's pretty cool.
Really cool, Simon. Yeah.
Any questions from the chat and from you? Happy to go. I know we've kind of went over the time that we have allocated, but if you have a couple of questions, I don't want to boot everyone out just because hard stop.
Miguel says, which VS Code extension do you use for Tailwind suggestions? I think you mentioned this at the beginning of the...
So it's called Tailwind IntelliSense. It's built by Brad Corns, who works at Tailwind Labs. But it sits, I think, under his namespace. But if you go in VS Code, actually, the best way to show you is to show you. If I go Tailwind, the first one that's going to come is this one, Tailwind CSS IntelliSense. And you can see a few config things. But basically, it gives you autocomplete, and then you can adapt it.
You do have to restart VS Code, though, you said, when you spin something up, which is fine.
It only happens when I use create next app. It literally only happens when I do this, and then
That's
I have
weird.
to... it might be something on my VS Code settings.
Yeah.
Yes.
Ratio also says, important not to interpolate Tailwind classes with JS variables.
Yes.
Purge CSS will not recognize those. That makes sense.
Yes. So the reason being that Purge CSS looks for a complete string. If you go bg dash and then header color, like the interpolate variable, that's the string that it sees. It's not going to try to what do I evaluate this to? So it's just like imagine a text file. It needs to find a text file, kind of like gzip, I guess.
Yeah.
Very good point.
Another question for you. If you have like a pretty custom, like really customized component or element, will your class name start just getting really, 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 really long, horizontally?
Yeah.
You're just cool with that, or is there a way to kind of manage that?
I am cool with that. Many people are not. But let me jump back to that view here. What you can do? What's a good place? Well, I'll just do something really simple here.
Okay.
I'm gonna find what's the longest thing that we've done. Let's take this link here, right?
Okay. Yeah.
You can, if you want. So I prefer to do the abstraction at the component layer. So like create a link component in React. So maybe not link because Next says link, but like that's where I would reduce the duplication. There is a way to do it at the CSS level. So I will copy all of these. And in our CSS here, I can write CSS. Technically, you would want to wrap this in there so it knows that it injects it in utilities. But I'll just write normal CSS. I'll go, what even is that thing that I was looking at?
Let's see. Was it a link to the header? It's the logo, quote unquote.
I wish I could use quote in the class name. So I'll go logo. And look at this. I will paste all the utilities and use another Tailwind directive called @apply.
Okay.
So @apply.
So it's applying those. Okay.
If I save this, @apply would say, hey, just figure out what the combination of this is and generate.
So you're just composing them together, right, for that one class. Okay. And then you just change the class name to logo.
Hey, there you go. And autocomplete again should find it. No, that's not logo. Logo. It's not finding it, but let's see. It still works. Yeah. Is that our side or your side? I can't even. Yeah, that's yours.
Yeah, it is.
And if I hover here, you will. What happened to? I don't know.
It'd be kind of cool, if it took all of the.
It usually does.
Things that you applied. Yeah.
The only place I found the IntelliSense extension to not work is when you use space between, which is a spacing utility between children elements. It doesn't. I'm sure if I close and start again, it will work.
So
but
chat is saying, chat is saying, apply is really cool, but don't use it.
Well, this.
So that's kind of funny.
If you follow Adam Warden on Twitter, that's the stance he's got, and most of us, I have that stance for sure. I even reached out to Adam when he launched Tailwind, and I was like, is that a trick to get people to feel a bit better about utility classes because they can still do this composition in CSS? And it's a useful tool, like for buttons and form elements that you're gonna have.
Right.
If you want really finessed, responsive with hover state effects and focus state and active state, then you do end up with like maybe 32 classes. And that might be a place where doing this abstraction is. But again, like I would always favor a template partial or component in React.
Yeah, that makes sense to me. And one thing I really like about this is that you know exactly where these are being applied. You're not like doing in some global style sheet where if you delete it, you don't have any idea where it's going to impact things. That's the problem with apply, I would imagine, is that if you delete that, what's it going to impact? And the build would probably fail. But the other thing is, I totally get the pragmatic kind of nature of this. Really cool, Simon. Very much appreciate you walking me through this. I'm really impressed. That's super cool. And I'm definitely going to be using this for my website. I'm going to go in there and try it out. And that pros thing, that's super cool.
Yeah, so that's good. It's likely going to change because the version 2 is coming soon, and it's going to change for the better. Like it's at the moment, the way to customize it is very bare bones. Like you literally, with the object syntax, you go and target the selectors and then style them like you want. And I think the API might change a bit, but the whole idea, you import it, you have like really, really curated defaults by default, and then you can change the colors. And I wouldn't tweak the line height and spacing too much because it's been really well crafted, but like the color of headings to make it match whatever your brand is.
Very cool. Horatio says, show the docs. That's a key feature of Tailwind. So
he's not wrong.
Documentation.
So, your next step, which usually is your first step, not TikTok, is to go. Let me unzoom a bit so it comes to the nice because I've got a quite high resolution for the stream, or low. So Tailwind, usually it's your entry point, and again that might change at some point. You will. My way to navigate through this is to use the /bar and search. So you're like, I want to do padding. You search for padding, and then you end up with like, hey, here's our utilities.
Oh, that's cool.
And then here's how to use them, and then here's how to customize them.
Yeah.
So again, you can go, and something we even barely skimmed over, there's all these responsive variants. So you can tell by default, padding will only be enabled for responsive. So SM padding top 2 or large. And then you can say, oh, I want to change. I don't know why. In most cases, it's not a good idea, but on hover, you would change the padding, which makes the thing kind of move funnily. So you would have to enable the hover and focus variant for the padding in your config file, like under the variants key.
Okay.
And this will generate a bunch more classes. So there's a reason why it's not all enabled by default. Is like it's exponentially, like especially with colors. Like if you enable variants with colors, because it generates a lot of class for each variant.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
So the whole idea, that's it.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, I'm done.
So my last question, I know that we're kind of over time here. What about React Native? We do a ton of React Native at Infinite Red. And so I've heard that Tailwind will work with React Native. What's the story with that?
I'm not well placed to know about this. All I know is React Native doesn't have the concept of CSS, right? It's like style.
It does have.
Oh, it has the yoga.
Flex. Yeah.
Okay. So there's that yoga thing which rewrites the Flexbox spec to a way where you can write it with a. I've used React Native, and that's when I was like, that was my first job where I couldn't use Tailwind because I was in React Native and I couldn't just use CSS. And I was, how do I get this working there? And I know there's a couple of libraries out there, which it's not by Tailwind, but people have made it work. And I'm interested to see. It's definitely something that has crossed our minds to like, how do you make Tailwind work in the JavaScript ecosystem? But
it
currently,
looks like there are two. One has 913 stars. The other one has 334. And so I'll definitely be checking those out and seeing kind of, what the pros and cons of those are. It'd be kind of cool to...
My guess for that is because they're not built by Tailwind, is you have to map all these to work in the JavaScript world. Sure. So every time, which is almost every week, there's new features coming to Tailwind that it's going to have to catch up or like just get stuck to a version that doesn't yet have like dark mode and all the stuff that's coming.
I'll definitely put a plug in to you and your team there. And we love it when libraries like this treat, React Native as a first class citizen, just because it's a killer feature, because you can use the same CSS on your mobile app as you can, on your website, stuff like that. So definitely put a plug in to support it. So
one thing you can do today is get the Tailwind config and then import these. You might have to map to change the values, like instead of, because there's no concept of pixels or everything is pixels.
Right.
It's, But the colors, like you can grab the colors now. And use them, and like there's a lot of stuff you can do.
Very cool.
Yeah. Well, I hope that was useful.
Awesome.
And
super useful.
Love to see what you do with it from this point.
Yeah.
If you haven't checked it yet, I don't want to make it that longer, but go to play.tailwindcss.com, and it's like an in-browser experiment. And actually, now that I talk about it, I have to show it quickly. Sorry. Play.
Yeah, I'm going there myself.
So it's the same. It's not React. It's just HTML. Well, it actually is a Next.js site, but you interface with but the key clutch feature here. If I found my, let's find this background here. The key feature is that you don't have to hit save to preview something. Like you can literally rotate over the values, and you can see the color. Like And if I get rid of teal, so I now have all the colors. So for playing with spacing and like discovering what utilities do, I don't even know what this padding vertical is applied to, but I can see all the different values and see it. So that's a really cool tool to just play around and discover how Tailwind works. Like it's a nice sandbox to speed up your creation workflow and then get used to the class names, because the only barrier to entry is figuring out what classes to use. And after a couple of days, 3 days of use, you start to have a really good grasp on the utilities. And then at this point, you're very productive.
Yeah, very cool. Awesome. Well, thanks so much, Simon. Really appreciate it. This has been fantastic.
Thanks for your time. It's been awesome. And if we end up doing something with the React Native, I would love to have you again and talk about this.
Always willing to. Absolutely.
All right. Thanks for your time. See you later. Bye, everyone. Thank you very much.